Africa is our land. Yeah. Africa is our land. Africa is our land. Africa is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. The Africa is the too. The Africa is the too. The Africa is the too. The Africa is the too.
I want to welcome you to this International People's Assembly on Zimbabwe, but as is our tradition, we always commence our proceedings with libation. So I'd now like to hand over to Chief Omilade Oladele. Thank you.
Greetings, Council. Homage to the Creator, the divine being we call God, Ibashe.
Ìbàlọ́wọ́ Olódùmarè ọba tẹ́rẹ káyé kíbà ọ̀sẹ̀ o. Tinoromiza Maribaba Musika wa Musika Jesse Bashe.
I salute the earth, Ibashe.
Mo pe ilẹ̀ pé kílẹ̀ ọgbọ́ kó jẹ́ kíbà ọ̀sẹ̀ o. Tinoromiza Ibu Bashe.
I salute all of our ancestors who were buried in the soils of Africa, Ibashe.
Mo dúbà mo sì pé àṣẹ lọ́wọ́ àwọn aláṣekù kí wọ́n jẹ́ kíbà ọ̀sẹ̀ o. Tinoromiza Matstete Guru Edu aka migwa mu vurem Africa Bashe.
I salute all of our ancestors who perished in the Middle Passage, Ibashe.
Mo dúbà lọ́wọ́ àwọn aláṣekù tí wọ́n jìyà kí wọ́n jẹ́ kíbà ọ̀sẹ̀ o. Tinoromiza Matstete Guru Edu akafa papu bakwedu kuva kunyika zedu kunyika zeva pamwe pfumu Bashe.
I salute all of our ancestors who were scattered throughout the world, Ibashe.
Mo dúbà lọ́wọ́ àwọn aláṣekù tí wọ́n ti fọ́n káàkiri gbogbo àgbáyé tí wọ́n mú wọn níbi tí wọ́n bí wọn sí tí wọ́n fọ́n wọn káàkiri kí wọ́n jẹ́ kíbà ọ̀sẹ̀ o. Tinoromiza Matstete Guru Edu nevanhu vedu vari munyika dzese Bashe.
And we give thanks to all of the people who have made today possible, all the efforts that they've put into all the organizing of today, Ashe.
A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ gbogbo àwọn tó ṣètò wọ̀nyí tó jẹ́ pé ọjọ́ òní kó bá wa láyé kó bá wa láàyè wa kó tún wá ṣe é ṣe tá a fi lè jókòó báyìí tá a fi lè pé a dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ wọn a máa ju wọn ṣe o àṣẹ.
Tinotenda Mwari tichimutenda vanhu vese vatipa kuti vakwanise kugadzira musangano uno kuti ubudirire Bashe.
And finally, I pray that you all are returned home safely at the end of the day. Ashe.
Mo wúre pé gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ débí ní ayọ̀ àti àlàáfíà tẹ́ ẹ fi débí ìníbi á jẹ́ àlàáfíà ọ̀hún náà pẹ̀lú ayọ̀ ẹ fi padà sí ààyè yín lọ́kùnrin lóbìnrin lọ́mọdé lágbà o àṣẹ o.
Tinonamata kuti munhu wese ari pano akwanise kudzokera kudzimba dzavo nerunyararo Bashe.
Thank you all very much.
Thank you.
Among the things that came up, because it was quite an heated discussion, but from what we saw, everybody else was having heated discussions as well. One of the important issues is the issue about communication and actually getting the information out there to our people here in diaspora and those other in other African countries also about the necessity to support Zimbabwe and to understand the links between the attempt to redistribute the land in Zimbabwe and the fact that most African people, who don't care where we are on the planet, are landless. And without land, you have no real power, because the minerals that you need to develop your society and so on comes from that land. Yeah? We talked about using GAC as a means of communicating our wishes to the African Union, and not just GAC as a organization for diaspora and Africans, but GAC as a organization for African peoples worldwide. So, you know, as a grassroots movement, we're using GAC to push forward the ideas and the realities of the needs of our people. We talked about the need to combat the Commonwealth and its use, the use of it by Britain as a way of disempowering African peoples. Yeah, so to try and put pressure on the Caribbean governments and the other members, the other African states within the Commonwealth to stop using the Commonwealth as a means of expressing the ideas of the Western powers, because basically that's what the Commonwealth is used to do. We talked about the need to re-educate not just ourselves, but our children, yeah? Because if we continue to let one generation get lost in this mind-numbing brainwashing that we go through, and then wait till you get to adulthood to try and fight it, then we're going to be fighting a losing battle. We need to move forward. So our children should start from where we are, usually not from where we were. Yeah? So we need to, that means take control of the education of our children by demanding within this country that, you know, African-centered curriculum, some African schools to serve our communities, whether, you know, I mean, we have to demand the money from the government to finance those or whatever. You know, I mean, that's also part of the issue of reparations. One of the things also that came up was the issue of getting fresh information, but information from African sources. Yeah? It's too easy for us as a people to, you know, regurgitate the newspapers and the, you know, likes of CNN and the BBC and Sky News, yeah? And we allow also others to regurgitate that stuff without challenging it. So we're saying that, like, you know, on a day-to-day basis, whether you're in work or wherever, whenever you hear anyone spreading the propaganda about Zimbabwe, that you should challenge it, yeah? And, you know, that we should make an effort to have information at hand, fresh information, information from sources in Africa to challenge that, yeah? One of the things that came up in that line is to actually try to explain to people the links between the movement for democratic change in Zimbabwe and the white establishment yeah, that now controls the economy of Zimbabwe. You know what I mean, as a means of trying to let our people know that too often when these people, even though they're Africans, are being held up and saying, yeah, you want to follow them, yeah, that you need to understand that there are people that are paying them to say what they're saying. Yeah, so you know, I mean, that was to us very important also. Sorry, we took a lot of notes and I tried to condense it, so you have to bear with me a little bit. Yeah, a letter writing campaign. One of the things that came up was the fact that, like, within African states, most African governments record the letters that are sent to them. So one of the things we need to do is start a campaign of writing to both African and Caribbean states, you know, saying to them, look, you know, South Africa, we want to know what your position is on Zimbabwe and land reform, and when are you going to be dealing with land reform in South Africa for the people there? Yeah, you know what I mean? And there are a lot of other places on the continent of Africa. You got Botswana, you got Kenya, you got Namibia. You know what I mean? You know, Malawi, where there are large groups of Europeans dominating the land. And you also got the same problem in the Caribbean. Yeah, and we need to actually start a campaign to raise the awareness of those governments there that we are looking on. And remember, a large part of the economy of African and Caribbean states comes from what's called remunerations. Comes from monies sent back by us living here in one way or another. And what we want to say to those governments, look, if you're not supporting these kinds of action, if you're not, you know, supporting the people having land, why should we be sending money back to the thing? You know what I mean? We want from you something. We want you to give the people the ability to support themselves. Yeah, and you can't do that without your land. Yeah. Yes. I think I got two more. Yes, campaign against sterilization. It was raised right at the end of the thing that there, you know, we need to actually raise with Zimbabwe the issue of the continuous sterilization of African women within Zimbabwe through campaigns run by the so-called World Health Organization and the UN, and which are sponsored by the United States. There's an article at the moment floating around the internet talking about the American government's policy to try and reduce the amount of African births worldwide by half. Yeah, so we need to, you know, challenge this. If there's anything that I forgot that's really important, if anybody else could just give me a shout. But I think that covers about the lot. Yeah? All right. Okay, thank you.
Facilitating the workshop on media and human rights. And our key points emerged from that. Perhaps one of the most important was to urge people to every time you see misrepresentation of Zimbabwe or any other issue that connects and touches black life, to write in, phone in the BBC, after all the taxpayers and should make those kinds of complaints. The second was that we should do more work to educate our young people to have a sense of the history of Zimbabwe, how it's got to where it is, what produced it, how it's understood, why it's dealt with as if it was a department of London. You know, you'd think if there was an election in Zimbabwe, it was happening in Hamilton. You know, then what is it that produces Zimbabwe that way in our society? The other argument people made was to understand what it is that Australia, New Zealand, United States and European on one hand see that the rest of the non-aligned movement, there are 145 or more countries representing 70% of the population of the world, sees differently that they don't see? What is it that the ACP countries see that they don't see? What is it that the entirety of the African Union see that they don't see? What indeed is the entirety of the African diasporic Pan-Africanist scholarship see that they don't see? And in many ways, it's not about producing one set of truths over another, supplanting one fact over another. It's a struggle over meaning. It's a struggle over two different kinds, if not more, forms of representation. You know, I used to think about what's being black in the media, what's black about being black being black, as it were. Now, if you ask me, is Colin Powell black? I have to answer differently. Is Condoleezza Rice black? I have to answer differently. It is not because she's not black or he's not black, but there is something else that's going on. And in many ways, that's what's going on about Zimbabwe. It's not about the facts that is an issue. It's about what the facts are meant to mean. Now, when you come to an issue like human rights, now most of the people in the room who have been involved in black politics will know that 20 years ago, a young guy called Colin Roach died in a police station in Hackney. A number of people in the room will remember some of us went on the march about that matter in a police station. 150 people were arrested as part of that demo. Indeed, I could list a number of people who died in police stations in this country, but it's never been referred to as human rights in our
wrapping up, Brother George.
And our aim is to finish. There are a number of young people who are having running battles with the police in Zimbabwe. Okay? There are a number of, this is a conflictual situation. This issue touches the heart and soul of human beings. Now, having run battles on the one hand with the police and getting into trouble with it is not the same as a breach of human rights. Now, to understand that relationship, you really have to enter into politics of representation, the struggle over meaning, and that's what this is about.
Will we have the third rapporteur, please, the anti-war workshop?
Zimbabwe campaign for people's right of self-determination. What we concluded was that we shouldn't be like barbarians, in that a barbarian, they say he always fails. After you've hit him, then he tries to block the punch. So we have had a beginning already in terms of the Durban Race Conference in 2001, and there were resolutions that were taken at that conference which we thought that we should try and implement. We noted that a lot of our young people in Zimbabwe lack the information to actually give them the ability to make the correct decisions at such critical times. We blame ourselves partly for that, for not educating them. And one of our contributors noted that 90% of war is cultural and ideological, only 10% is physical. Right. So, if you have been defeated in that very important 90% sector, then there's a lot of problems. So we determined that as a strategy, we must regain that cultural and ideological territory. A beautiful idea was also contributed by a sister from America, that we should start what is called political tourism, where people actually go and see for themselves instead of listening to the lies that they are being told by the media, so that more and more of us can go to Africa. Thank you.
Finally, can I have our workshop report back from the lobbying workshop?
I was basically in the meeting concerning the lobbying of the NGO and governmental action in defense of truth and justice about Zimbabwe. How we initially started is by realizing that going out and lobbying our people, we have to realize the environment that's actually being created around the whole issue of Zimbabwe on an international level. So we had a brother in our group who was basically talking about, for instance, a lot of our people don't actually know that a lot of the land is in the hands of the white farmers. However, it is the black farmers who are producing the staple foods that the Zimbabweans are actually using. So basically what we resolved is that we need to formulate ways that we can basically be proactive and rally and galvanise our own people outside the borders of these rooms and basically here in the UK, basically interlinking with international organisations. One of the ways that we can do that over here is by basically producing a leaflet which basically contains the actual facts of what is actually happening in Zimbabwe, because many of our people over here in the UK are basically feeding on the lies of the media, so therefore their opinion is polluted by that. We also resolved that we should basically support groups such as the AU and SADC, who are basically trying to get into internal debates going on, as in the way forward of development for Zimbabwe, and also that we should be wary of giving to a lot of the NGO organisations who appear on the surface to be helping our people, but really have no interest. A sister in our group actually spoke about how she was giving money on a monthly basis, and basically at the age of 15, when she went over to Africa to actually see the sister who she was sponsoring, the sister was still illiterate and couldn't read, and found out that a lot of our people didn't actually know anything about it. So we need to look at ways we can basically formulate our own resources and basically connect on a personal level with the sponsors that we actually have in the motherland. Once again, we also spoke about the way that the media is basically trying the old tactic of divide and rule, and is basically trying to swell up, the differences and between our people. Our brother spoke about there's no tribalism that really exists at any major level in Zimbabwe, but that's what they're basically trying to put out there, so that our people are one against the other. So to bring it to a conclusion, it's already been said by the other rapporteurs who actually came up here. It's basically about formulating our people and basically getting together and being proactive and doing something for ourselves and not relying on anybody else to do it. Thank you.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, I bear witness that there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Beloved brothers and sisters, we give thanks to the Creator of the heavens and the earth for our gathering here today. Whether we call him Allah, God, Jah, Yahweh, or Jehovah, we can never thank him enough for our great ancestors who paved the way for us with their love and their unique genius that we might be here today. We thank the Creator for the lives and the sacrifices of our ancestors who were inspired and courageous and motivated enough to shed their blood, sweat, and tears, that we who are gathered here might one day soon, without fear or apology, fulfill their long-awaited vision. We are honored by the presence of His Excellency, the High Commissioner of Zimbabwe, and the rest of the Zimbabwe High Commission delegation, to all of the ministers, MPs, heads of government departments and councillors, to those visiting us from South Africa and other regions of the mother continent, welcome. To the other special invited guests from the United States, once again we are deeply honored by your presence. To all of the heads and members of the non-governmental organizations represented here today, to the activists, and grassroots organizations who are coming from a social, political, and religious persuasion. We thank you for your presence and hope for your constructive and active participation. We are thankful to the organizers whose hard work and planning has made this day possible. We are thankful to all of the sponsors for their help and assistance. We are thankful to the management for the use of this venue. And finally, we are thankful to every ordinary man, woman, and child who has taken the time to be here at this first historic International People's Assembly on Zimbabwe. Welcome to you all. I greet you in peace. Assalamu alaikum, which simply means peace be unto you. My name is Leo Muhammad. I'm a member of the Nation of Islam, the national spokesman to Minister Michael Muhammad, and I'm also a member of the Black United Front Parliament based here in the United Kingdom. It's changed. That's right. The character of the people we are dealing with is still the same. Zimbabwe is a continuation of a mode of operation, and it's nothing new. Finally, let me remind you of our resolution on Zimbabwe passed in Barbados. And it states, be it resolved that delegates at the first African and African Descendants World Conference, repairing the damage, redressing the injustice, recognize President Robert Mugabe and the government of Zimbabwe as the only structure mandated to deal with the land reform program of Zimbabwe. We applaud. We applaud and support the courage and foresight of President Mugabe for embarking upon the land reform program in Zimbabwe. We affirm the solidarity, support, and commitment of this international community of black activists to those Zimbabweans engaged in the struggle for freedom and reclaim of their land. I thank you, brothers and sisters. Assalamu alaikum.
His Excellency, the High Commissioner for Zimbabwe, Comrade Mbandaka, and his delegation of Zimbabwean MPs, party officials, members of the concerned friends and observers of Zimbabwe, members of the Global African Congress, and organizers of the International People's Assembly on Zimbabwe, invited guests, brothers and sisters. When I was asked to speak, and I knew that you have had several sessions before, I was not quite clear where to start from and how to deliver the speech in case I was dealing with issues and approaches that you have already gone through. And I thought in that respect, it would be more useful if I try to answer questions on and accusations against Zimbabwe in the international media and in other various fora. First, I would like to say briefly what are the objectives of the land reform in Zimbabwe. As many of you will know, land reform was a major part of the objectives of the African independence struggle in Zimbabwe. It is an unresolved issue. It is a problem caused by colonialism and imperialism. It was not caused by anything else. It had to be done sooner or later. Some people say, why did it take so long to do? And why only now? The truth is that it is not only now. It was going on all the time at certain levels. But now it was decided we had to do it in a much bigger and decisive way.
All right, all right.
And if a problem was not solved yesterday, it does not mean it should not be solved. Why did it take us so long to gain our independence? Why did it take so long to end colonialism?
Yeah.
Why did it take so long
Yes.
to end slavery?
Yes.
The matter of political change is not so simple. It cannot just be done and done away with so quickly because there is resistance. There are other forces at work. So the land reform is part of the economic empowerment of the dispossessed and formerly colonized African majority in Zimbabwe. It is part of the democratization of the economy of the country. Democratization of the economy and economic independence in the former colonies is something that the Western world cannot accept and will fight to make sure it doesn't succeed. This is the essence of neocolonialism. Neocolonialism means that you can gain your political independence, control political power, but that political power is there to protect the economic interests of the former colonial masters. Independence without economic power is popular with imperialists. They like it that way. Then because you become the new leaders of the newly independent state, become the protectors of Western interests, economic interests, and eventually political interests. So it is in that respect that the land issue in Zimbabwe must be seen. The first question I would like to answer is it true that land reform has been chaotic and has destroyed agriculture in Zimbabwe? The answer to that is land reform in Zimbabwe is a revolution. It's a struggle. Where there is a struggle, there is resistance. That's why it's called a struggle, because there's resistance. And where there is a struggle, you don't discuss issues of chaos or destruction. When the British themselves colonized us and were shooting us and were taking our land by force, they never talked about chaos or destruction of property. The British and the Americans were bombing and occupying Iraq and Afghanistan. They never talked about destruction of the houses industry, the killing of people, human rights abuses, looting, and all that went through. They never talked about it. It's not important when they are doing it. But if somebody else is doing it, then it's no good because it's against their interests. And when they say destroy agriculture, whose agriculture are they talking about? Yes, we must destroy their agriculture and build our own agriculture. If we leave agriculture as it has always operated in Zimbabwe, then it means there will be no land reform, there will be no change. It means the status quo should remain, and that we have rejected in Zimbabwe. The second question you may have come across is it true that there is no law and order in Zimbabwe? Again, where you have a revolution, where you have a struggle, and there is resistance, what law and order do you talk about? When they were colonizing us, did they talk about law and order?
No.
When they were bombing Iraq and Afghanistan, did they talk about interference with the law and order? There was law in Iraq, there was law in Afghanistan, but it was not their law. And whose law are they talking about? If it is our law, we are prepared to do away with it in order to achieve our objectives.
Right.
The third question has always been in the international media. That is it true that there is violence and human rights abuses in Zimbabwe? The answer is the same as in the previous questions. What violence? The struggle is violent. War is violence. When they were having their war in various colonies in Afghanistan and Iraq, was that not violence? Their violence is law and order. Our violence is violence. That's how it is. Human rights abuses, denying people a livelihood, is human rights abuse. Denying the rightful owners of land, their land. We should not be apologetic about it. We should say yes. But what is your definition? Because their definition is not our definition.
That's right.
Their definition is there to promote their economic interests.
That's right.
And our definitions should also be there to protect our economic interests. The fourth question is it true that land was given to President Mugabe's relatives and cronies, or that there were too many anomalies? Now, to answer that, the best way of answering that is to look at the figures of how many people have benefited from land reform. Over 300 families, which you can multiply by 8 or 10. So 300,000. Over 300,000 families have benefited. Can they possibly all be Mugabe's relatives? Could they possibly be all his cronies? We are talking about 3 million people out of 12 who have benefited directly, not indirectly. Can they all be his cronies and relatives? There must be a lie somewhere.
That's right.
In any case, who defines who is a relative and not a relative? Everybody here is saying brothers and sisters.
That's right.
Which means in our language we are all relatives here.
That's right.
So if we are not, maybe what they mean by land should have been given to people who are not relatives, they mean it should have been given to the British because they are. Question of anomaly. Yes, in a revolution, any revolution, there are excesses, there are extra things. There are people who take advantage of any system. There are thugs, there are crooks, there are cheats in any system, even in Britain. You find a lot of them at all levels, whether it be at the grassroots level, at the professional level, at the judiciary, in the monarchy. It's all public. Anomalies are always found. That's why we have a police force and a judiciary in every country. It is to check on those anomalies. For instance, they say that there were some ministers or some big people in Zimbabwe who were found to have more than one farms each. But that information came from us, from our own internal system, not from them. Our system is capable of detecting what anomalies are there so that they can be corrected.
That's right.
And this is what our government is now doing. It is trying to correct those anomalies, and the correction of those anomalies is not an event, it's a process, it's not a 1 hour thing.
Yeah.
Because some of them you may not know. In any case, when you say somebody has more than one farm, are you saying he has more than one farm in his name? If it is in his name, he has several farms in his names, then that's definitely an anomaly. But if it is his neighbor who also has a farm, that's not his, because the neighbor is entitled to a farm. If he has a son who is mature, say 25 or 30, he is married with a family, he is also entitled, if he has the means to use it, and if he has the interest, because it's not compulsory that every Zimbabwean should have a farm. It's not compulsory, it's only for those who apply and those who are interested. And the majority of the people who bought farms in Zimbabwe are peasants. The over 300 people I was talking about, only 57,000 above that figure are people doing large-scale farming. Those who do small-scale farming at the peasant level are ordinary people. Many of them have always been in farming, but they didn't have enough land. They were pegged together into areas which are barren, areas where the rainfall is very low, and they were starving. Now this empowers them to be given good land where they can cultivate, feed themselves, pay for their children's education, pay for their medical services, and so on. That is very noble for the government of Zimbabwe. We are going to correct any anomalies that we shall find in our system. After all, it is us who are discovering those anomalies. It is not the British media, it is not the opposition, foreign-sponsored opposition we have in Zimbabwe. It is our own system, and President Mugabe is the only African in the contemporary world who has managed to actually face imperialism directly and say, this is the fact.
I'd like to welcome Dr. Mavis Chizonga.
Thank you very much, brothers and sisters. The President of the Global African Congress, the Executive of the Global African Congress, and representatives of and all the organizers of the International People's Assembly of Zimbabwe, Your Excellency, the High Commission to Zimbabwe, the members of Parliament from South Africa, members of Parliament from Zimbabwe, members of the Central Committee from my party, my colleagues, comrades and friends, we are grateful to be here, the Zimbabwe delegation that arrived this morning. We have traveled 10 hours to be with you, and we said we will share with them the experience. We appreciate what you are going through as black people. Some of us have studied here, have lived here. We know what it feels like to be a black person in the UK or in the US. But I would like to start by telling you who I am. You've been told a little bit by my sister here. Very quickly, because of time, I'll just summarize. I am Mavis Chizonga. Mavis. That name I was given. That name is not what I'm supposed to be called.
Yes.
Traditionally, all the Zimbabweans would get their names in the mother language. According to what the mother and father of the family is experiencing at the particular time, or what the ancestor or the relation would be honored by getting the name of a particular person. But I was born in a small place, in a small hospital, in an area called Mrewa. And a white doctor came with names listed on a piece of paper. And these names were thrown in the cots or in the beds where our mother slept. And that's how I got my name. I am told that I should not change that name because it is a Christian name. The other names are supposed to be evil. This is where we are coming from. All I'm saying with this little story is that we are supposed not to have an identity. We are not supposed to have roots. Again, we will touch on another little story that has touched my life before I tell you about the land problems in Zimbabwe. In the 1960s, I was a young woman then during my primary school. I experienced seeing lorries and lorries of people moving, those who know Zimbabwe, from Chivu, Mashingo. They were crossing Harare through my area, through my homeland, which is called Mondoro. And I said, where are all these lorries going to? They said, oh, these are the banished people who are being moved because they occupy the fertile land which is supposed to be for the white man. These brothers and sisters, I was not told. I did not read about it in a history book. I saw it, I experienced it as a young lady.
Come on.
They were being moved to Gokwe. This is where I married. I went to live in Gokwe and I married. My husband comes from that area. And I've again lived in the area where these banished people were moved to. They were thrown into an area which was infested with wild animals, infested with tsetse flies, which cause sleeping sickness, which cause a type of disease that causes that gives you a very big, bad fever. The people were thrown in Gokwe, and Africans, being determined as always, they saw what they had, the poor soils, the animals. They decided to create and to make a living out of that environment. And now it is one of the best areas that is the best cotton in the world. Now we have cotton. 70% of the cotton grown in Zimbabwe is coming from that area where people were thrown out in the soils that were, in the area that had no rain, not enough fertility in the soil, but they made the best out of it. And somehow God was with them. Again, I'll tell you a little bit about Mavis in her current state. I am also a female farmer who has benefited from the land redistribution program. I was given my piece of land 8 months ago, 210 hectares. That piece of land, which I share with my husband and my 3 children, I tell you the experience I'm going through, even as I speak to you. I didn't even want to get onto the plane to come here because I said, 4 days away from this piece of land. What I'm going through there is I produce the 4 crops that I started with. Looking at the animals, which I bought as calves, but they are now rich cattle. I said, this is why I now understand. We might talk about the feelings of the white people in Zimbabwe. We might talk about how the British and Americans are feeling about their king and king. I now understand them thoroughly from the experiences I've had being on the land. Those people were having it good, and I can't even find the right word to describe it. Those people, as we saw saw them, they decided, when we decided to fight for our rights, we thought having the vote was the final. We thought by living in Harare, putting our ties on as usual, from the colonial towns, we were taught to drink our tea at 10 o'clock and 3 o'clock. We thought that was the best. But I tell you that the white men in Zimbabwe and in South Africa and in Namibia, in Kenya, in Zambia, in Malawi, is still having it good. There is nowhere else in the world than in Southern Africa where the whites are living a fantastic and excellent life, where they continue to exploit your people. I tell you, the white person in Zimbabwe, as I grew up and as I see him now every day, he wears his long socks, his shorts, his khaki shorts, his khaki shirt, and he walks around in Harare 1 or 2 hours that he comes to town, and he goes back to the land. And I used to say, what? There's something wrong with these guys. Why do they like to stay on the land? But you know, this is where all the money is. They are the richest people in the world. You tell them to come and live here in Britain, they'll kill you. You have seen from the media that whites are leaving Zimbabwe. They are going to Australia, to New Zealand, they are going to England, they are going to Zambia, they are going to Mozambique. Yes, they are going. But what they've done, they're very clever. They've not sold their houses. They've not sold all their properties in Zimbabwe. Yes, they've gone to Australia. I went to Australia last June. Of the 2,000 farmers that went to Australia, 18% stayed on. Now some of them are security guards. Now some of them are working in the garages. They are no longer farmers. For the few that went onto the land, they were 8%, according to the figures at the embassy. The 8% that has gone and were given land in Australia, they were given land, they were shown where to settle, they were given financial assistance, they were given the combined harvesters, you name it, the agricultural machinery, the latest, the computers and everything. But we have a joke at home where the white woman said to her husband, but yes, we have all this, but who's going to change the nappies of my baby? Because we have left those black people in Zimbabwe who are doing everything for us. And the white woman turns to the husband and says, who is going to till the land and where are the laborers? But Australia does not have the laborers, the Afrikans are not there. The alternative the white Zimbabwean has moved to, already the white Australian has destroyed the black person in Australia. So the labor that's supposed to be there, they are getting drunk in their reserves where they've been banished. So there's nobody to help the Zimbabwean white farmer who has gone to Australia. To them, most of them came back to Zimbabwe. They said, we would rather go back to those terrorists. We would rather go back and negotiate. Most of them, as I talk to you now, are at our offices trying to negotiate to get a Zambia, they've gone to Mozambique. You are told they are now going to develop other parts of Africa that are prepared to take the white men. Yes. The Zambians are starting to ask what they did in Zimbabwe. They will be here for some time, but we Zambians too want that fertile land. They've gone to South Africa. They've negotiated with the white South Africans. My fellow South Africans will talk about their experience. But what we know is that the South African black is also questioning because they are also in shacks, they live in shacks, they live in the homelands, which are also unfertile land. The South African man and woman is now asking, why, when am I going to get my piece of Africa? So we wonder where the white Zimbabwean, where the whites from Zimbabwe are going to go and farm. But here, comrades and friends, Mugabe is not an issue. We hear everywhere we go, Mugabe should be removed. Yes, you are very welcome. Anyone who feels they want to remove Mugabe now, they are very welcome. He can retire, he can be removed by force, he can, any means that they want to remove. But Mugabe is not the issue.
That's right.
We have had the first Chimurenga, where in the 1890s, when the Lord stood in the British Parliament and he promised the British, they were going through problems in the 1890s in the British Parliament, and he was a member of Parliament. He stood up and he promised these people that I will go and find food. I'll come and find the solution to the problems the British were facing in this country. The Black Plague, the drought, the starvation which was taking place. They wanted, and he went and found the solution. He came to kind root. Yes, he went and found the diamonds. He went and found the crops, the cooking oil that he needed. There were farms in Tanzania, there were farms in South Africa, which grew the crops, which now fed the cooking oil that came to Britain. Yes, Rhodes brought back the money. Even up to now, you still have scholarships, Rhodes scholarships, where the British and the Americans benefit.
Yes.
But what really happened? When he came with the settler regime, the British, when he came and started walking through the forests, killing as they proceeded, taking over as they proceeded. Nobody talks of the pioneer columns anymore. Nobody talks, as my colleague said, talks of the brutality that took place when people were shot. We had spears, and they had those, what they call with the cannons. Thousands of our people perished. Nobody talked of violence. And you don't even read any history books that talks of that violence. They moved on. They moved on into Zimbabwe. They destroyed what they could find. There was a lot of resistance. The second Chimurenga came that we have experienced among you. There might even be children of those who have stayed in detention. There were people who stayed in prison 20 years, 25 years, 27 years, people being tortured, staying in prison. Some became sterile. They were sterilized. They were tortured left, right, and center. Some of you are related to them. They know them. South Africa, Namibia, Zimbabwe, Zambia, Malawi. People have stayed in prison to fight for their rights. In Kenya, the same. You have the Kenyattas and so. That was the second Chimurenga.
Yeah.
Ours was led by the Chitepos, the Joshua Nkomos, the Robert Mugabes. That was our second issue. The whole issue was not Robert Mugabe again. The issue was the land. Throughout, the first Chimurenga, it was the land. They held on to the land. Our ancestors fought for the land, and they were defeated. They didn't have the technologies, the equipment. And now we have the third Chimurenga, which is now again what we are going through now, where we said enough is enough. After 1980, our president and his cabinet decided in the political leadership to reconcile with the whites, to reconcile the three armies that were in Zimbabwe, the Zebra forces, the Ian Smith army, the Zanla forces. They said we cannot have a civilian war in Zimbabwe. They reconciled, and from experience and from what you see now, it was the black man who was always apologetic. It was the black man who reconciled, but it was not the other way around. Again, we were seen as fools, because when we reconciled, we wanted to sit in the offices, as I said, in the urban areas, in the suburbs, where we were not allowed to stay in the low density suburbs. But the white man decided to stay on the land where it mattered. He decided to stay on his mines where it mattered. And this is where we have threatened the West. This is where we have threatened the British. We have threatened the Americans because that's where it matters. Angola, talk about Angola. Nobody cares. The Americans don't care about Angola. They care about the oil that's on the offshore. You talk of South Africa. Nobody cares about the black South African, but they care about what they can find and benefit from in South Africa.
About the genocide in Congo.
Yes. But what is there is the minerals in Congo. They are stealing themselves apart in Congo because of the diamonds, because of the oil. That's all they interest. They don't care about how many of us kill each other, but we are foolish enough to fight each other. Now the third Chimurenga in Zimbabwe, after the reconciliation, they said the Zimbabwe government has removed most of the archaic laws that were there. I think most of you, I will give a document for those that needed information, where we had all these laws that were used by Ian Smith and his ancestors. The Liberty Concession, the Native Reserves Order, the Land Apportionment Acts, the Native Husbandry Acts, all these acts that you have read in your papers or in any of the documents that I see at the back there, most of them have now been changed.
Right.
And we stepped on the white man's toe when we decided to change the land laws in Zimbabwe. But also, when I keep saying Mugabe is not an issue, comrades and friends, let me tell you my experience. I am a member of ZANU-PF. I'm very proud to be a member of ZANU-PF. It is a revolutionary movement that has liberated me and my children.
All right.
But what we are experiencing is that Mugabe not being the issue. Even if I bring, I don't know whether they are here, but my colleagues, my brothers and sisters who are black, who are in the MDC, the opposition party that's working with the whites, if they were to be here, if you ask them, they also want the land. They also want, because that is our base, that is our root. But this is where we have created enemies all over the world. We have said we want to change. We have said we are reversing the reconciliation policy because it has not worked for us. We are the ones who are apologetic, but they are continuing with their ways, with disregarding what our interests are. They have continued, but what has happened? We have said we will take the land, the most fertile land, I think from the figures, if I may just go back to the figures that you have at the back there, or the document that I want to review, where the native reserves, the African land where we were pushed to, the rocky areas, the infertile soil, no rainfall, no good rainfall patterns, 29 million acres. The native purchase areas where the better African farmer, who had the skill, which were on the fringes of the commercial farmland for the white men, 80 million acres. The European areas, and they never called themselves black and white Zimbabweans. I want you to understand this. Our whites in Zimbabwe never called themselves white Zimbabweans. They call themselves Europeans. There was special land before the changes in the 1980s, where their land was 49 million acres. And there was unassigned land, 6 million acres. There was forestry for government, state land, 3 million acres. All this land that is European is on the best best parts for those who've been to Zimbabwe, the best parts of Zimbabwe, the most fertile, the good rainfall areas, the most beautiful parts of Zimbabwe, they were all European areas. This is what we have taken back. This is why Mugabe and his team are in trouble. But then the issue is, when Mugabe reconciled with the whites and said, let's move together as a nation, came together, united all the other political parties and said, let's move as a nation, we were found to be fools again, because with that reconciliation it was misinterpreted that we don't know what we want. But now that we have decided that, well, enough is enough, Mugabe has had pressure. And I tell you, we have not brought them here, because he's one of them. He's sitting over there. Can you just stand up? You? Yes. Thank you. We have war veterans, we have Zimbabwean mothers, Zimbabwean children who are pressurizing Mugabe. Because they said from 1980 we have been looking at you, Comrade President. You have promised to deliver what the three Chimurengas should have delivered. Now we want what you promised us. So he was taken to task. That blood actually flowed in Zimbabwe. People died for the land. But President Mugabe, we have not yet seen the results. This was in 1998, when everybody, after the failure of the Lake Conference, which was sponsored by the British and the Western European countries, failed to deliver. That's in 1998, that's when the fast track resettlement program started. Because the people were saying enough is enough. And Mugabe did not move onto anybody's farm. The people of Zimbabwe, the ordinary persons, moved onto the farm. I'll give you figures. Women, because they are the farmers in Zimbabwe. Women at every level. 80% of the farmers in Zimbabwe are women. So when I'm talking of farmers, I'm talking of women. We have had from 1980, we had a resettlement program where I was an officer, where people were settled. 71,000 families were settled from 1981 to 1987. Then the British started, not releasing their monies. The European countries, all the European NGOs, the CIDA Sweden, CIDA Canada, you name it, all the 8 most powerful countries had their monies for infrastructure development to assist with the resettlement program. But the land was to be purchased by the British and the Zimbabwean and the American government. But they did not keep their promises. But our people said, we don't need anybody's money. What we want is to get our land back. But from the 71,000 families that were settled in the first 6 years of resettlement, in the first 10 years after Lancaster House Conference, we have had from the time, this is where you can say what you want, or anybody can say what they want to you about Mugabe's cronies. Yes, Mugabe's cronies, yes, but I don't know how many members of cabinet are you? There are 25 members of cabinet, 25, 1 to 25. Then the central committee is how many members? The political. The Politburo is the same persons are also in the Politburo. So it's, you can't count them twice. And then you have the Central Committee, 250 members. 250 members, those are the people who are supposed to surround, those are the so-called cronies around Mugabe. But if you say, look at the figures, we are now talking about maybe 350, 400 people of the cronies that are supposed to have benefited. But the same cronies, if I may use the crude word, the same cronies are the same cronies that he was with in prison. Are they not entitled to land? second Shimule. They are the same corners that are generals in the army now. They are the heads of the police because our police force is now black. But are you saying the sons and daughters of Zimbabwe, they are not entitled to the land that they went to war for? Just because they serve in the government? That's the argument. It's up to people to interpret what they want. But looking at the numbers now, let me give you the numbers per province. From year 2000, when MDC came into effect, started their organization and their campaign with the whites to bring back the white onto the land. We have had, for Manicaland province alone, this is the fast track program where people have said, to hell with the government system, we are moving on to the land. And the government said, no, let's do it with us, with the systems, so that we move you quicker. So they moved on to the land. We have in Manicaland 1,015 families. Families in Zimbabwe in times by 6 or 9, because our families are big. Those are the beneficiaries. Mashonaland East, we have 3,172. Our country is divided into 10 provinces. These are the beneficiaries of the fast track program, organized through government. Mashonaland Central, we have 1,657 families properly settled through the fast track program. Mashonaland West, we have 6,354. They have more farmland there. Mashingo, yes, less farmland, so most of the Mashingo people were moved on to Mashonaland West and Mashonaland Central. So we have 532 families. And then you have Matabeleland North. Again, Matabeleland North doesn't have much land. It's where you have the Lake Kariba, the Victoria Falls. It's more wildlife. You have had people who have gone into wildlife management, about 191 families. And you have Matabeleland South. Again, it's really derelict land there, very dry, animal land, where you have 242 people who have gone into mostly cattle grazing. You have Manicaland, which is in the eastern part. We have 10,926 families that have benefited. Then you have Mashonaland East, you have 22,377 families. You have Mashonaland Central, 12,541, and it goes on. But these are the figures. In total, the fast track resettlement program has brought up 228,778 families as of last year, December. These figures are up to last year, December. This report, I'll leave with you for any information. This is not, you can, when you visit Zimbabwe, you can cross-check this.
Coming soon. Yeah.
This is what we have, and we would like you to visit.
Soon, we're coming soon.
First 71,000 families, the 220,000 families, and ask them whether they are all related to the president, as my colleague said. These are Zimbabweans. I'm not related to the president. I've benefited.
All right.
But the issue here is, as we say, the interest of the West. We have taken over their kith and king's livelihood. We have disturbed the livelihoods of the white people. Why have they not gone to my sister country, Nigeria? Nigeria was very clear from the beginning. When the whites left Nigeria, they never went back. But then if you look at Kenya, if you look at Zimbabwe, Namibia, South Africa, that's where you find all the wealth that you can talk about in Africa. And this is where the white man still wants a hold in Africa. Yeah. We might say anything about Saddam Hussein, we might say, criticize him as a person, but what the Americans want was not to remove Saddam because they didn't like Saddam, but it was the oil. So if we understand what they want, then we know what we're talking about. Now for my brothers that are here, that have any connection or might want to know why Mugabe and his people, us, do not understand our fellow MDC members, the opposition.
Teachers now.
We have nothing against an opposition party that comes genuine, because South Africa is working very well with opposition parties in its parliament. I don't know how many they are, but maybe there are over 20 parties in South Africa. It's working very well. But our problem with MDC is that they have come like a sheep in a leopard's skin. Vice versa. The leopard's skin or the sheep. They are wearing the leopard's skin outside, but sorry about that. So they are here. We are saying to them, if they want to be an opposition party, yes, come, let's criticize each other, let's grill each other. An opposition party is very healthy because it makes the ruling party run. Yeah, they'll be checking on the ruling party. And they'll make the ruling party stay in power longer if the ruling power also listens to the opposition. This is the game. But the MDC from 2000, they came in, I tell you my brothers and sisters, I was also running for parliament. But what I saw for the first time in my life in Zimbabwe was white women, white men with their trucks coming to feed black political polling agents. Coming with pots of rice, pots of stew, to dish out the polling agents, black polling agents. And I said, what's happening? Because normally we don't eat together, we don't work. If you happen to visit Zimbabwe, go to our parliament. Please don't miss the sessions Tuesday to Friday. Just walk into our parliament and there is a public gallery like this. If you sit in the public gallery, you'll watch, you quickly notice the opposition and the ruling party because of the usual, like Westminster, the usual rumbles and so forth. But what you also notice is that you will have a white man constantly, every day of the sitting of parliament in the gallery with his book, writing. And what you will have is on the side of our so-called opposition party, whenever a black member of parliament from the MDC, when he or she wants to speak, they will turn around and look at the white MDC parliamentarian. If he nods his head, then she will stand up. So we are saying, where is the control? If you happen to, all these talks that you hear about, that ZANU-PF is talking with MDC, but even when at break time, they walk out. We are talking to the blacks in the MDC. But when they walk out at the veranda, they phone. Yes, Mr. Orange. Yes, Mr. Orange. Yes, Mr. John. Yes, sir. I understand, sir. So who are we dealing with? Very quickly on the killing of whites. Killing of whites. Police brutality. We are told there is police brutality in Zimbabwe, there is a killing by youth, there are some militias being trained and so on and so forth. Let me tell you a little incident which happened near my home area. Some 5 white commercial farmers met 2 war veterans, the former combatants that fought in the Second Union. They met them outside the post office. They started throwing words to each other. This was during the first trip in the resettlement program, in the year 2001. They started shouting at each other. The argument continued until it was fist fighting. The war veterans were 2, the whites were 5. They beat the hell out of the 2 workers. Then the war veterans left, went and got their own. Right. Then when they came back, they went to each of the white farms. And the whites, 3 of them knew they didn't go back to their farms. They knew what they'd done. The other two were found. One was beaten until he died. The other was beaten until he died. But here, it was, when I was I was in the States at that time, it was reflected on television. I left Zimbabwe and these guys had died. But the dying of a white man in Africa is something else. And during the same period, there were 61 whites who had died on the farms in South Africa. Nobody said a thing. In South Africa, it was a criminal activity. The two whites in Zimbabwe, it was brutality, Mugabe's brutality. With that, comrades and friends, I say it doesn't matter what we want to do with Robert Mugabe. It doesn't matter whether we feel we have to remove him, whether we think he's overdue, he should have gone, but the role he has played, he has done his bit.
Brothers and sisters.
Brothers and sisters, greetings to you, and greetings to the organizers of this historic conference.
Yes, indeed.
I am honored to have been invited. I am honored to have shared some moments with those brothers and sisters in the workshop, and I am indeed honored to be in the presence of His Excellency Zimbabwe, the High Commissioner from Zimbabwe to London. I am honored. We go back a little ways in terms of our work relationship, and indeed it was one of the most inspiring that we have had. And to my sister, whose name will probably be in Zinga, sister, at the end of this conference. To my sister, and to Brother Dr. Pheko. If I would tell you how long we had been working together, then you would perhaps guess my age and probably think I am not 20, like I really am. On behalf of the December 12th International Secretariat, we bring you greetings. We want to discuss with you some issues, and we also want to implore you to be judged not by what you say, but what we must do. The United Kingdom, and I'm always disturbed by that adjective that calls these barbarians united. You see, a people who sought to conquer the world through the most heinous crimes, through crimes that have yet to be enunciated, to call itself a united kingdom is indeed plural.
Yes.
I come from its bastard child. That is the United States of America. came about through genocide.
Yeah, right.
Presently, it has joined in with its fathers and mothers. However, Tony Blair could not be perceived as a father. He is indeed a lack.
That's right.
And the United States government has joined this person to attack the sovereignty of Zimbabwe.
That's right.
Now, I was talking earlier to my sister when we talked about whether or not His Excellency President Robert Mugabe is, quote, the issue. And I said to her that perhaps not the issue, but indeed His Excellency President Robert Mugabe is the solution to the issue. The government of the United States has issued an executive order. I want you to, for a minute, to fathom a cokehead, an idiot, a, quote, born again Christian, if you could get to that, who could issue an order sanctioning the government officials of Zimbabwe. This executive order, I want to bring to your attention, comes on the heels of what was passed in the United States Congress, and I wish we had time to talk about that body. However, on the heels of the we say, Democracy Act. And what I want you to zero in on is that that act says that the United States government could in fact and will in fact establish a Southern African Finance Center located in Zimbabwe that will co-locate regional offices of the Overseas Private Investment Corporation, the Import-Export Bank of the United States, and the Trade and Development Agency of the United States. And I bring that to your attention when I say that President Mugabe is the solution. It is the solution to the attempt to recolonize Africa. President Mugabe, as one of the movers and shakers and leadership of the Southern African Development Community, put a halt on the process of recolonization in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Let us be clear. President Mugabe said to the World Bank and to the IMF, your conditionalities of the loans that you made have rendered Zimbabwe in an economic situation that we will never be able to get out because the debts are unpayable. President Mugabe is the solution. President Robert Gabriel Mugabe is the solution. As the man, as the perfect being? No. But as the leader of a party, the leader of a sovereign state who will not be cowered by the government. The Zimbabwe anti-democracy. Imagine, just imagine for a moment, a settler country that the United States government is. A settler country issuing a document called democracy. A document called democracy. They, the Bush clan, the Wolfowitz, the Pearls, the Cansteiners, the Jewish mafia, in fact, is going to teach Zimbabwe democracy. What that act enabled the Congress to do was to say to other countries in Southern Africa that indeed, if you do not bring Zimbabwe to its knees, that this institution that they have the power of the Congress to establish on the soil of Southern Africa, a la Botswana, that we will bring you to your knees. Our job then, our job, definitely in the United States, you know, we are laboring, we are struggling, we are fighting, because we are the children of Frederick Douglass. We are the children who believe if there's no struggle, there will never be any progress. So we do struggle. We must use, in my view, the existing apparatus, as imperfect as it may be, that we have, which is called the African Union. We cannot fight the United States. You know, I'm definitely a believer in the David and Goliath concept, you see? But here is a coward entity that will never fight us on the ground. They don't do that. Right? It is from the air, bombs, planes driven by radar. Presently, we can't fight that.
No, that's true.
We can't fight that. We don't have what the North Koreans say, or the United States say the North Koreans have, but we got to get some. But until we do, so what we must use is what we have. What we have. We represent the consumers and producers of all of the world. We must then, through the AU, and it's going to be tedious, I know it is. We fought to have consultative status with the AU for almost 9 years. But we never gave up. And we can't give up. We must use the mechanism of the AU to bring Goliath to its knees. Right. And we can do it. The World African Congress must accept as its charge, asserting itself into the processes of the African Union. It's not rhetoric. It's not phrases for applause. It's a demand. Yeah. It's a demand on us. We must do that. we talk about the hideous propaganda machine of the West, of corporate media throughout the world. And we attempt to devise ways to come at that propaganda. Again, money talks and talk walks. Okay? So we then have to come with a way, again, that we have to defeat the corporate media. What am I saying? I am saying that if we are to defeat the image that has been created by the world corporate media, we've got to go to Zimbabwe in the hundreds and thousands and say, this is Zimbabwe and that is not. In that regard, brothers and sisters, the December 12th movement is planning what we call a political tour. And it's going to be a tour that will have those of us who are political and are going for propagandistic reasons, and those people who want to come to see great Zimbabwe.
All right.
So from the U.S. at this point, we are planning to take 100 people. We took 400 people to Durban to do battle, you know, with the United States and the West on the question of the transatlantic slave trade. And we were able to accomplish that mission. I'm saying to you, we're going to take from the U.S. 100 people to Zimbabwe, which is a drop in the bucket. But I know from London, we're going to be able to hook up, because we come through London, we're going to be able to hook up with 100 of you all, and 200 of us are going to go to Zimbabwe. And see, brothers and sisters, if not, then our talk is for naught.
Yes.
The internet, our newsletters are no match for 200, a minimum of 200 people with no apology for saying we support His Excellency Robert Mugabe. We make no qualification on that point. We support the right to self-determination. We support the inalienable right to determine one's destiny as a sovereign nation. And of course, we must be prepared for the sacrifice.
That's right.
Maybe some of you don't know, but in the United States, these gangsters have passed what they call the Homeland Security Act. Part 2, or the second half of the Homeland Security Act says that those of us who were kidnapped and brought to the United States and born there from our ancestors could have that so-called citizenship that they bestowed on us without our discussion or will. They could take that citizenship away and deport you to any, quote, country that would take you. So when we talk about sacrifice, we are talking about being very clear that the empire building of the United States will use everything at its disposal to build its empire. up to and including the bombing and destruction of Iraq. But they will never do that to Zimbabwe because we won't let them. You understand that? They talk about human shields in Iraq. They don't know human shields until they attempt to bomb Zimbabwe.
Come on.
I promise you, there will be a real problem. Yes. Finally, brothers and sisters, on the issue of reparations. Reparations, in fact, very simply, is the demand to attempt to repair the devastation that has been caused by the transatlantic slave trade, slavery, colonialism, and yes, apartheid. That those African states, Africans throughout the diaspora, lives, conditions, generations to come must be repaired. That is no longer a request, but indeed a demand. In the United States, the first stage of that was several lawsuits brought against some of the giant beneficiaries of the slave trade. They are banks, they are insurance companies, they are railroads, etc., that we are presently suing. People talk about that, you know. We came under tremendous heat, particularly from some of our comrades and brothers and sisters that went to Barbados. Nonetheless, there is a process by which you begin to take Goliath's feet from under him. First thing is to take his shoe. Crackers can't walk without shoes. So the first step is to have those corporations lean on the other benefactors and say, look, we have a problem. One of the insurance companies, Aetna Life Insurance, we are in the process of collecting 100,000 Africans who hold Aetna insurance policies. And all they're saying is that we, the policyholders, are very, very sure, Mr. Aetna, that you are going to pay reparations for the involvement, the insurance policy. You insured our ancestors. You paid slave masters for those of us who escaped, those of us who were killed, and those of us who died from your brutality. And if not, you have no shoes. At least not the 100,000 policy holders that you presently insure. We met with a brother from Jamaica, who is suing y'all's queen. Excuse me. Y'all have a queen. We're suing the queen London for reparations. And what I am suggesting is that those of you who live here, we will provide you with that information so that you can join in the suit. They're all class actions. The value of them, brothers and sisters, is the kind of propaganda that we must have to reach the millions of our people who do not know that we're even gathered here on the issue of Zimbabwe. That is one of it. The other issue is South Africa. My beloved South Africa. We must support the suit of the people of Zimbabwe, of South Africa, who is suing for crimes against humanity created under the apartheid regime. And brothers and sisters, I didn't want to talk this long, but I want to say this. President Thabo Mbeki, President Sam Nyomo, President Robert Mugabe are not perfect people, but they're our people. And although we may not and will not agree, we can never let the West know that on those three brothers we disagree. We're students of Malcolm X. Malcolm taught us that when there is a contradiction among the people, you take the people in the closet and you say to the people, we have this contradiction. But you come out of the closet and you tell the enemy there are no contradictions. So that the suit in South Africa must be supported by the Congress and by all of us. The Herero people in Namibia, we must raise them up. We must demand from the Nazi regime, past and present, that they pay reparations for that carnage of those people. We cannot separate ourselves. We can never separate ourselves. And so therefore, brothers and sisters, those very simple actions, those very small steps that we can take must and will revitalize our Pan-African movement. Thank you for listening to me.
Africa. And I don't know exactly what to say now. But I don't want to keep you too long. So I'll be very brief. I simply want to say I thank the chair, and of course I want to recognize my very dear brother, the High Commissioner from Zimbabwe, with whom we worked for many years at the United Nations. And land is fundamental to genuine liberation. The attack on Zimbabwe is an attack on Africa. It is a desperate attempt to recolonize Africa. To repeat the 1885 Berlin Conference, when Africa was partitioned into Italian this, British that, French that, Belgian that, German that. Land is money and power. For what I know, all our martyrs who died in the liberation struggle in Zimbabwe, in Azania, everywhere else, they died for land.
That's right.
Because our gold is in the land. Our diamonds are in the land. Our fertile land, our fertile soil is in the land. Our food is in the land. Our water is in the land. Our life is in the land. Our ancestors went to war to defend that essential national asset, the land. We have had kings who fought in numerous wars of national resistance. They were not fighting for employment. They were not fighting to attract foreign investors. They were fighting for that which God gave to them. That, of course, with regard to Zimbabwe, reminds us of grandmother Nehanda. A revolution that was led by that grandmother for land. Liberation without repossession of land by the former colonized people is a colossal fraud. An attack, therefore, on President Robert Mugabe is an attack on we're having cowards in the leadership of Africa. And the reason why Mugabe is so attacked, it is because he's sending a wrong signal to the natives. And this is the correct signal. I want to say that I come from Azania, a land that was called South Africa by the British on the 20th of September 1909. It was called South Africa. We call it Azania. We call it Azania because Azania means black man's land. So when you talk about South Africa is a colonial name. In the category of Rhodesia, I think the Zimbabwe situation is a challenge to all of us. It is a wake-up call to Africa. It's a wake-up call that the flag, the national anthem, and parliament are not the liberation of the people. The liberation of the people is in possession of their land. The problem of land is not only in Zimbabwe. In my own country, South Africa, we are the worst land problem. And when it explodes, the Zimbabwe situation will look like a picnic. According to our own statistics or research, it is believed that in Zimbabwe, at independence, prime farmland was in the hands of the whites only perhaps to the extent of 23%. In my country, it is to the extent of 70%.
81%.
There are over 10 million people who have nowhere to sleep, who live in squatter camps. Filthy squatter camps in a place called Maitland, not far from our parliament in Cape Town. There are African people who have been sleeping in a cemetery there for the last 9 years. And if you were to go to Cape Town today or tonight, you'll find them shivering there. We are very pleased ourselves at the Pan-Afrikanist Congress of Azania for what ZANU-PF under the leadership of President Mugabe has done. They often say, "Ye shall know the truth, and the truth shall liberate you." We cannot be liberated by lies. We cannot be liberated by lies that land is not important. We also cannot be told that we cannot use the land. We have lived in Africa for millenniums of years. I'm not talking about centuries. And we met the West only about 600 years ago, when the most, if you include the transatlantic slave trade. That was not long time ago. Who was feeding us?
Exactly.
Who was feeding us? Who was providing medicine for us? Who was making those spears for us? There are some students, I'm sure, here at Transfer in Africa, who would have to be trained heavily in geology before they can identify a stone from which our forefathers made those farming tools and their spears.
Yes.
Africa is the first world.
That's right.
After people have been stealing our gold, our carbon, our platinum, our fertile land. 80% of the raw materials of the world are situated in Africa. No bananas grow here. No sugar grows here. And we are not going to allow it. And that is why we must come to the support of courageous leaders like Mugabe. In my country, we have long supported ZANU PF, and when things began to rumble there, because PAC was made to look like a very stupid organization, because we asked, what are you going to do with land? Keep on talking about land. But I think when things began to happen in Zimbabwe, it also began to make sense, even to those who were woodwinds in our own country, that land is important. But I want to say to you, in South Africa, as they call it, the constitution of that country has guaranteed the wealth of those or those who already possess land. It is called the property clause. And you cannot claim land before June 1930. So the problem in South Africa is worse. Namibia has a problem, Kenya has a problem, Zambia has a problem, a number of countries in Southern Africa have a problem. And this problem would never have been exposed had it not been for the courage of the people of Africa. So we understand what the screaming is all about. It is to prove that the PAC is wrong on the land question. And that if they had been silent, it was quite nice. You see, you stupid guys, you say you want land. I don't know whether I can read a few things here, just for purposes of history.
Let us remember that Africa belongs to the
African people. That is why our ancestors throughout Africa fought in numerous wars of national resistance against colonialism. Most importantly, these were overland robbed from Africans. In 1652, when Jan van Riebeeck arrived in South Africa and was forcing the whole Africans out of their land, a Hoi king asked, and I quote, "Who with the greatest degree of justice should give way to land, the natural owner or the foreign invader?" For his part, in 1859, King Moshoeshoe of the Basotho Africans wrote to a colonial leader of the settlers, Bishop in South Africa, and he said, and again I quote, "It may be you white people do not steal cattle, but you steal whole countries. And if you had your choice, you would send us to pasture our cattle in the clouds." It is strange that some people with university degrees today do not see the value of land, yet it is where gold, diamonds, platinum, uranium, and fertile soil and water are situated. Anyway, let me now deal with Zimbabwe itself. The 2002 elections in Zimbabwe, as I've already indicated, are a wake-up call for Africa. The elections have shown that we still have the idiosyncrasy of the media rooted in Eurocentrism and manipulated to protect the interest of imperialism in Africa. The former practitioners of the barbarism of slavery and thieves of African countries have not changed their racist contempt for Africa's people.
That's right.
To them, the myth of Africans as a child race is being perpetuated.
That's right.
And it persists. Unfortunately, some docile Africans accept this imbecility. Today, Zimbabwe is threatened with a situation which is similar to the time when this African country was invaded by British settlers under Sir John Rhodes.
That's right.
This arch-agent of British imperialism said, and I quote, "The clearing of the land of savages could now be achieved in 2 to 3 years with the aid of a certain number of machine guns. This savage, this something more, very little than a monkey." Close quotes. In the last few months, the colonial history of Rhodes has been trying to repeat itself in Zimbabwe. If allowed, this history will have dire consequences for the recolonization of the rest of Africa. In Zimbabwe, the issue is not elections.
No.
It is not Mugabe. The issue in Zimbabwe is the control of the riches of Zimbabwe, including land, which Cecil Rhodes parceled free among colonial settlers of his own superiors. To the imperialists, the African riches must remain in foreign hands. This is the lesson for Africa that is coming out of Zimbabwe. It is neo-colonial resistance to the return of land to its rightful owners.
Land was the prime goal of King Lubengula when he fought British colonialism in 1883. Land was the chief grievance of the war of national resistance against colonialism in Zimbabwe when it was led by that revered woman of Zimbabwe, grandmother Nahenda. She was hanged, let's not forget. She was hanged for defending her country from colonial robbers. That's right. Nobody then spoke of the violation of the rule of law and violation of human rights.
That's right, that's right.
Zimbabwe's elections with Britain, Zimbabwe's relations with Britain have been colored by the land question. However, the Zimbabwe government has not asked the descendants of the colonialists to go where their forebears came from. From what we are told, 4,000 white farmers control 12 million hectares of land. Mugabe's government has asked for a mere 5 million hectares for the landless or overcrowded people of Zimbabwe. Is it human and just that for this, President Robert Mugabe must be subjected to European and American sanctions? They never imposed sanctions on Rhodesia when Ian Smith committed treason. Many Zimbabweans had died in the battlefield and in jail in order to liberate their country. The Zimbabwe lesson is that Africa must intensify and solidify Pan-Afrikanism. The only way Africans can protect their own interests and ensure their survival and security. Too much dependence on foreign powers is suicide for Africa. Much has been said, much has been said about unfair and rigged elections in Zimbabwe. If this is true, why is that no similar dust has been raised about the election of President George? The election of Bush in 2000 smelled not a rose, but a rotten rat. His brother, J.E.B. Bush, governor of state of Florida, manipulated the American election in that state. For him, the election of President Bush has been described as fundamentally corrupt. After 6 months of investigation into the 2000 American presidential elections, in which 24 reporters were involved, the New York Times said it had discovered, and I quote, mountains of evidence of unequal treatment of overseas ballots in Florida on behalf of the Republican candidate, George Bush. Its report provided additional evidence to demonstrate that the process which determined the outcome of the 2000 American election was fundamentally corrupt and against the vote. Commenting, Eric Alaman wrote, and I quote him, "The Times has done a service in forcing us, Americans, once again, to face up to an ugly but increasingly incontrovertible fact. The 2000 election was stolen from Gore and Lieberman tickets, but from It was not stolen from Go and Liberty, but from the democratic process itself. We are all poor. I don't want to go too much on this, but I simply want to close by saying that some Western countries behave as if they have superior sovereignty to that of African nations. The charter, however, that of the United Nations, clearly states in that quote, all members shall refrain in their international relations from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state or in any other manner inconsistent with the purpose of the United Nations. The lesson of Zimbabwe shows that the vision of Nkrumah, Sobukwe, Lumumba, George Hasmo, Gazi, and other Pan-Afrikanists for the United States of Africa must be speeded up so that Africans can protect their interests collectively and effectively. Land is fundamental to genuine liberation. To ignore this fact is to commit national suicide. Africa is our land. Africa is our land. Africa is our land. Africa is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. The Africa is there too. The Africa is there too. The Africa is there too. The Africa is there too.
Pamberi nechimurenga. Pamberi nechimurenga. Pamberi nechimurenga. Tateni. Madam Chair, brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, ladies and gentlemen, I was going to make a statement, but in the light of the fantastic work which has already been done by my two compatriots, Dr. Zonga here, and Comrade Chen Chimtengwen, as well as my two good friends from over 10 years ago, back in New York, Comrade Viola Rama and Dr. Pheko. Fantastic work that they've done. I decided that I'll just make a few appreciative remarks, but my statement will be available for the booklet when it gets published. Oh, my, sorry. So that to economize on time, I would want to say three brief comments. First, I would like to inform the Assembly that the delegation which arrived this morning from Harare to participate in this People's Assembly consists of 2 members of Parliament, 2 members of the ZANU-PF Central Committee. It's an extremely senior delegation. This delegation was not nominated through any bureaucratic process. It was identified and nominated at the highest level of the party, ZANU-PF. At the highest level of the party, ZANU-PF. This is in appreciation of the importance that the party ZANU-PF is given to this assembly. They left Harare with a message of appreciation from the highest levels in the party. The Speaker of Parliament, Comrade Mbandaka, personally facilitated the 2 members of Parliament. And the president of the party personally authorized the cabinet authority for the delegation to travel. This, I want to assure you, marks a very important beginning in the relationship and working arrangements between this assembly and not just ZANU-PF, but the people of Zimbabwe. Who have fought and continue to fight and will continue to fight until total liberation. Allow me, therefore, first and foremost, to pay my special thanks and appreciation to the Global African Congress for facilitating this historic international people's assembly on Zimbabwe. This important initiative will go down in history as an important landmark in the mobilization of public support for African people's struggles globally, with particular focus on Zimbabwe. This assembly could not have come at a more opportune time for Zimbabwe. The government of Zimbabwe and the ruling ZANU-PF party have been singled out, as you are all aware, for vicious attack by Western imperialist and colonial interests. Day in and day out, we have witnessed propaganda and false allegations churned out through their media, both print and electronic.
Yes, sir.
Their principal target being the reversal of the gains of our hard-won independence, and in particular, the recent liberation of the land from the shackles of our colonial past. This historic International People's Assembly is a very eloquent indication that Zimbabwe is not standing alone.
Yeah, oh yes, oh yes.
That Zimbabwe is not fighting alone. That Zimbabwe is fighting shoulder to shoulder with black peoples everywhere. It is therefore the task of this People's Assembly to chart the way forward together. It is the task of this People's Assembly to show our detractors that Zimbabwe does not stand alone in Africa, in the United Kingdom, and indeed in the world. It is the task of this People's Assembly to create a voice that can be heard about the shrill of the imperialist media, whose agenda is to perpetuate colonial interests, not only in Zimbabwe and Africa, but also in the rest of the developing world. Let us therefore together reclaim the motherland. Let us reclaim the motherland together for Africans at home and abroad. Let our war cry be heard. Let the war cry be heard. Hands off Zimbabwe. Hands off Zimbabwe. Let the war cry be heard. Over and over again.
That's right. That's right.
Hands off Zimbabwe.
Free up the land.
The struggle continues and victory is certain. Thank you, Madam Chair. Brothers and sisters, comrades and friends, thank you. And thank you.
In relation to the whole issue of land reform in Zimbabwe, part of what I don't understand is why still today Zimbabwe has not put the criminals on trial for what they did in the period of so-called UDI. Yeah? And, you know, I just would like to hear whether or not anything is being done to put these people on trial. Because I know one friend of mine who is one out of 13 members of a family that was left alive because of what a white farmer did. Yeah? And these people apparently have not been put on trial. I just want to know, is there anything being done about that?
Greetings, people. We will definitely be free one day. Hopefully things like this will inspire us to do more better things. Thanks for being here. The question I want to ask is to the Zimbabwean High Commissioner. One thing about fighting for the land is one thing, but what I want to find out is, what are you doing to change the historical landmarks, like so-called Victoria Falls, to be worldly and nationally recognized as the official African name, rather than Victoria Falls? Because the reason why the Europeans are so settled in Africa is because their language and the name they've called our monuments and icons are still there for them to call. Hence why they are comfortable there. So what are you doing to change, especially Victoria Falls, so-called, to the official African name, worldwide, and African one? You can call it like that, not by Victoria Falls. Thank you.
Yes, greetings. My name is Mbandaka. I'm a Marcus Garvey and journalist and activist. And all praises to Oludumare, Amen-Ra, Oyami, Chuku, Mwari. These are words for the creator in African languages. Because without the creator, we would not be. And we know that we as African people will win in the end. What I want to say, that as a journalist, Marcus Garvey was also a journalist.
And he said in the Philosophy and Opinions that one of the greatest weapons that the enemies, the Europeans, use against us, and when I say Europeans, I include Americans, because Americans are named after Amerigo Vespucci, an Italian American. So they're all Europeans, wherever they are. He said that propaganda is one of the greatest weapons they use to defeat our people. It has done more to win victories more than open warfare, because it is about the mind. Because once you control what people know, then you have them. And so, as a journalist, I have always been fighting constantly, day and night, to put the African side of the story, to put our interests. The brother from the Pan-Afrikanist Congress, I met him in the early 1980s when I hooked up as a journalist with the PAC to support them when they were in Wilson fighting for African liberation. And I did an interview with the PAC representative of the time, Zolile Keke, and it was printed in the so-called Voice newspaper. Shortly afterwards, I had to leave the Voice newspaper because Val McCallum, the owner who is now dead, couldn't take my Garvey writings. You have people like Tony Stewart writing a lot of anti-African things in the Voice. Constant propaganda against Africans. About 2 or 3 weeks ago, they had a front page inciting, encouraging Mugabe next. This was just like the song, the Negro version. Encouraging the overthrow of an African leader. And I salute Brother Mugabe. No Robert or Gabriel for me, he's an African. Brother Mugabe, because right now, he's the most courageous African leader in the world. I'm coming to one of those very soon. You have some of our people, every day I take them on, they say that Mugabe, he should make way for someone else and that type of thing.
Sorry, brother, we need to be moving on to the next person.
Just wrapping now. I say, if it's someone else, no matter what Mugabe does, it has to be and continues to be a situation of war. Because once the situation is about land, and it is all about land because revolution is based on land, as Malcolm X said, nothing Mugabe or any African leader can do will appease these people. Because there is no compromise on the situation of Africa for the Africans, those at home and those abroad. And they will never ever silence these African journalists from using any radio station, any newspaper worldwide to push our message of African liberation. One God, one Creator, one Amen-Ra, one Mari, one aim, one destiny. Victory is the most.
My name is Charles Majangi. I'm part of the delegation from Zimbabwe. May I say how extremely uplifting this whole experience was. After months of looking for fertilizer, tending my crops in a newly acquired plot, it was nice to come back here, and especially to hear from Brother Leo Muhammad. He reminded me of my beautiful, beautiful blackness. He quoted from the Holy Quran. Unfortunately, I've never had access to that holy book, but I do know a bit about that other holy book, the Holy Bible. And I'll quote from the very first verse. In the very beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The heavens and the land for human beings, for animals, for plants. How then does it happen that an individual ends up with a piece of paper that he has right to a particular piece of land in perpetuity, freehold title? This is the product of private capital thinking. And it's gaining momentum in the form of globalization. It is no coincidence, brothers and sisters, that my country, my ancestors, were not dispossessed by a government. They were dispossessed by a private company, the British South Africa Company. Today we are being told that private capital is everything. Market economies are the way forward. This is all a red herring. We are being asked to entrust the future of all human beings to profit maximizers. And it is our duty to resist this at all levels. As for Zimbabwe, please help us take this war to the internet. I've noticed that we are losing there. We have been concentrating on the peasants, the people we are used to. But we are losing the war on the internet. You have the technology. Our enemies are fighting on the internet. Thank God people don't vote on the internet. We would have lost. But please take the battle up there. Thank you.
Greetings. Good morning. My name is Spartacus R. I'd like to thank the ancestors for bringing us here today, allowing us to interact with each other. I'd like to thank the organizers for making this a successful conference. I'd like to make a couple of observations and propose a resolution for this conference. A resolution, I'm not saying a resolution. I expect that there will be other resolutions proposed by the conference. I was not here this morning, maybe there were several, but I'd like to propose one. First of all, I would like to say that we should be very careful that we do not fall into the trap that has been set for us, which I can see very, very clearly, not just by my clairvoyance, but by the lesson of history. History shows us that when we place too much on one person's back, our enemies have a habit of chopping that person's head off and dissipating our ambitions, our aspirations. One of the speakers did say that Mugabe is the solution. I will strongly disagree with that, because I believe that we are the solution to our problems. I would like to affirm my understanding of our position today, and that is that we are at war. We are in a state of war, and we have been in this state of war for a long, long time. Some of us have a way of ignoring that fact by saying that it's racism or capitalism or some kind of other kind of ism. But we are at war, and we are unfortunately not recognizing that we are at war, whereas our enemies will do everything possible to continue this war against us and continue to win every single battle. So far they've won a lot of battles. They have not won the war yet, because we shall be victorious. I'd like to propose my resolution. This conference recognizes that we, the global African community, are at war and have been in a state of war for centuries. We declare, therefore, that we will use every means necessary to vanquish our enemies, liberate ourselves, our land, and take back everything that has been stolen from us with interest, and assume our rightful place as the first world on this planet. Do you believe that we're at war? Now, if we are at war, there are certain things that we have to do. We have to behave as if we're at war, not as if we want to change. Okay, I'd like somebody to second the resolution proposal, please.
I second.
Okay, Brother Mbandaka will second.
Can I take that copy of that, please, for records?
Well, I would like for us to vote on this resolution, please. It's an official resolution I'm proposing, not something to be put on the back burner, please.
I'm a journalist from the African Times newspaper, part of the ethnic media group. I'm a Gambian, my name is Marilyn Fantamane, and I have a colleague who has been a journalist in Zimbabwe. He's a freelancer for the last... I've got a colleague who's a Zimbabwean journalist, and he's been a journalist in Zimbabwe. He's now on a scholarship over here. He's an Intebele, and my question is for Mavis. I just want to check the statistics with you about how much land the Intebele people have been given. In terms of, you said only 91 families. It seemed very small compared to also, the only reason I'm bringing up this issue is because he wrote an article recently about how the Intebeles want to actually become an independent state, separate from Zimbabwe. How will this issue be tackled?
Okay. My name is Nora Sky. I'm a Zimbabwean journalist, freelance, and I'm here today to talk on behalf of an ordinary Zimbabwean. The whole day you've been listening to our politicians, our High Commissioner. What I'm saying today is there are over a million Zimbabweans living in the UK, and I'm a bit disappointed that only a few of them turned up today. Secondly, I'd like to say thank you to the assembly organizers, but they should also bear in mind that there is a very important need to remain impartial, or else the whole assembly will be viewed as ZANU-PF supporters. Also, the politicians from Harare who have come here today, can you please, okay, the politicians from Zimbabwe, can you please take this message back that we need to sort out our internal affairs before we even think about fighting with the West. We need to unite as Zimbabweans, as Africans, as black people, before we even think of fighting the West, because without that we won't even win. Thank you.
Thank you. Greetings. My name is Maria Teresa Santana. As you say, I still have this colonial name, but I have a very good reason for still having it. My fighting name is Tubia, that means fire. It's my name of origin. And I still not have a soul name, that is my given name. That one I want to get when I go back to my land, to the land of my ancestors. That is the one that I want to get. I don't want just to give myself any other name. I want them to give the name that is deserved to me. And on the issue we were discussing here about the land, and I also represent the Boyo Wataifa, which is a Pan-African Women's Association. What we want, and also a member of the Global African Congress, what we want right now, that the Global African Congress should come out as a resolution out of this conference, is to have a strategy of land reclamation, not only for Zimbabwe, but for the whole continent of Africa. The reason I'm saying that is that as we've been discussing this, and I come from the land of Angola. That land now, as we know, has been at war for how many decades? And the fundamental issue has always been the issue of land. And we see now, since that the Zimbabweans were living in Zimbabwe, the white Zimbabwe live in Zimbabwe, moving in southern Angola and taking over the land there. So the question is, if we don't have a common strategy on the land issue, never mind, they will move from one place to the next one when they find there is a good place for them to take over. So if we don't strategize together and don't have a common strategy on the issue of land, the issue of land is not just for Zimbabwe, but it's for all us as Africans to come together and decide how the land belongs to.
Very tough now.
Greetings Africans, my name is Ruma Diallo. I'm a member of the All African People's Revolutionary Party. And we'd like to thank the organisers and of course the participants for putting a fantastic conference on today. And also for the guests that have come over from Azania, South Africa, from representatives from the embassy, etc., from ZANU-PF. We understand that the real weapons of mass destruction, which is always in the news nowadays, are Bush and Blair, with their weapons and arsenal of weapons like the IMF, the World Bank, etc., etc. And their propaganda, which is basically creating a situation where our people get disinformation about what's happening in Zimbabwe, not only in Zimbabwe, but in Africa as a whole. In 2 days' time, it's Malcolm X's birthday. Malcolm X said that revolution is about land. He also said that any revolution is the landlord who holds the land, and the landless who trying to get the land back. And this is the situation in Zimbabwe at this point. We understand as an organisation that the people will take back their land in Zimbabwe, but not only in Zimbabwe, but the situation is also rife in the whole of Africa. So we understand that the African masses in general must take their land back. And the only solution is a Pan-African solution. We need a unified socialist Africa. So I'd like to close with that. And also, again, thank the organisers, and also invite all of you to African Liberation Day, which the AAPRP with other forces are putting on at the University of East London next Saturday. Thank you.
My name is Lukongo. I am from the Democratic Republic of Congo. I'm a journalist and activist based here. Brothers and sisters, I would like to draw your attention to one thing very, very important. That Baroness Amos has just taken over from Claire Short. And you know Claire Short is giving the government of Museveni in Uganda, the government of Kagame in Rwanda, and the government of Buyoya in Burundi $50 million a year so that they can move into Congo to kill and loot minerals and bring it to Britain and America. Now that she has just taken over from Claire Short, I would like to ask each one of us probably to write to her or to phone her, not to continue with this policy of Claire Short, which is clearly killing in Congo. And what do you read in the Western media, in the British and American media, that Mugabe is looting in Congo as Museveni and Kagame and Buyoya? That's a lie. Because these people moved, and actually they took the Inga Dam, cut the electricity to Kinshasa, babies died in the incubators, many sick people died in the hospital, and that's the time when Mugabe sent troops to save us in Congo. Without Mugabe's military intervention, we will not be talking about a country called Congo today. American plan to divide Congo fell thanks to Mugabe. And I proposed in our resolution that we proclaim today Robert Mugabe a true Pan-Africanist. And Laurent Desiré Kabila. Thank you very much.
Education department. We need our own social care department. We need our own spiritual traditions institutionalized. What am I saying, brothers and sisters? We need to build institutions where we can employ our own people to do the work, to serve the interests of our people. The disgrace that we have to suffer.
the lowest educational performance, the highest exclusion statistics, highest unemployment statistics. We're 3 times more likely to suffer from renal failure. Brothers are 5 times more likely to suffer from prostate cancer. We take these things for granted. That is how white supremacy works. That is the way they make manifest the myth, the presumption that white people plus white culture is greater than black people plus black culture. They create that through their institutions. So we have to be about nation building and institution building. So brothers and sisters, let us say as of today that we are a new African people. Let us say as of today we're going to take a different attitude. Those of us who are not members of organizations, we're going to join organizations and take up people's liberation fight forward. In the words of Patrice Lumumba, he says, "Come my people, let us show the world what Africans can do when we work in freedom." And in the words of the most eminent prophet and king, His Excellency Marcus Messiah Garvey, rise you mighty African people, for you can accomplish whatever you will. Thank you very much.
Is our land. Africa is our land. Africa is our land. Africa is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. Zimbabwe is our land. The Africa is the too. The Africa is the too. The Africa is the too. The Africa is